Did he do it? That is what more and more people are asking after P. Diddy has now officially been charged with sex trafficking. Because as you might have seen, he got arrested last night in New York, and this morning we learned that he's now facing 3 charges. Right? Because on top of sex trafficking, he was also slapped with racketeering and transportation to engage in prostitution. In the indictment that was unsealed this morning, it says that the allegations go back to around 2009, claiming that he, quote, abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. And in order to do all this, it claims that he created a criminal enterprise whose members and employees engaged in sex crimes, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Also, in terms of the abuse he carried out, the indictment says that it was persistent and at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. Also accusing Diddy of manipulating women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers, and claiming that he ensured their participation by giving them narcotics, controlling their careers, leveraging financial support, and using intimidation and violence. The indictment also later went on to say that these sexual performances were often referred to as freak-offs, with him claiming that Diddy directed them and explaining that they occurred regularly and sometimes lasted multiple days, with him providing controlled substances to the alleged victims to keep them compliant, also sometimes filming them without their knowledge and consent. And both during and separate from these freak-offs, there were plenty of other alleged instances of violence, with Diddy being accused of hitting, kicking, throwing things at, and dragging victims. With the indictment saying that victims sustained injuries that sometimes took weeks to heal, but also they said that the victims felt like they couldn't refuse his demands without repercussions, because on top of everything else, he also allegedly used sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings from the freak-offs to silence the victims. We also saw the indictment seem to reference an attack on his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura that you may have seen because CNN published that security footage of Diddy assaulting her in an LA hotel, which is one of the few things we've seen Diddy address in the past, right? He later apologized when that video went public. And of course, with all of this, as you probably know, this is not the first time we've heard about Diddy facing these kinds of accusations. Because in addition to murmurings and lawsuits, back in March, his homes were searched by federal officials, and at the time, they said that this was over a sex trafficking investigation. And actually, hitting on that, the indictment revealed that during those searches, investigators seized so-called freak-off supplies like narcotics and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Also going back, Diddy's facing a massive pile of lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault and misconduct. I mean, one was even filed just last week. And of course, that wave of lawsuits was kicked off by Cassie Ventura, who sued him last year, accusing him of years of abuse and rape, with Diddy settling that lawsuit even though he has repeatedly denied wrongdoing. Though also with that, you have the New York Times noting that while victims weren't named in today's indictment, a lot of the accusations are very similar to what Cassie alleged. And as far as what his lawyer told reporters this morning regarding these charges against him, they said he's going to plead not guilty, obviously. He's going to fight this with all of his energy and all of his might and the full confidence of his lawyers. And going on to say, I expect a long battle with a good result for Mr. Combs. But right now, regarding, what comes next here, the investigation's still ongoing. When asked about if more charges would be forthcoming against Diddy's associates, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York just said they couldn't take anything off the table. But a very key takeaway is they did note that Diddy didn't do this on his own, right, by himself, and he's being charged with racketeering conspiracy. So there is definitely more to come here.